But at first, let's go over and see if everything we already have had done in here is possible to use in our interface. But what we want to do is at first is in very start we want to say update UI, since we also want to pass in or make sure that we can see the points to spend at the very start. So now I go over, and the first thing is I need to create an empty game object, and this is going to be my create player game object. You can again name this whatever you want. I drag in the create player script. Now what we have in here is all the text elements we need to pass in that infos, like those text elements in here. So I open up all that panels I just have in here, and now click again on create player. And as I know, the first one in the line is the stat text, is going to be the strength text. You can always go in and rename them, but I want to just drag them in. The second one is the second panel is going to be wisdom. The next one is going to be then agility. Then number 3 should be armor. Number 4 should be hit points, and number 5 should be regeneration, and the last, oh no, this is regeneration. So what we do is we go to the second panel in here where the stat name is, and I want to change this one to wisdom. So since this is the second text in my list in here, so the next one is this one, and this is going to be agility. Then the next one in the line is going to be armor, I hope. If not, then not. Then we will need to change that. This one is going to be our hit points. And the last one in the line is going to be our regeneration, or just regen. And yeah, all that numbers needs to be now in that create player thingy in here, and that's what we already have. And the points to spend, which is that text element in here, needs also be in the last text spot. Also on the archer button, for example, I want to create a new on-click event, drag in the create player game object, go to create player and set the archer class on click. Same for the warrior, create a new on-click event, pass in or drag in the create player object, and choose the function set warrior class. Same for the mage, on click event creation, drag and create player class script or object, and set mage class. Now we should be able to see when we are pressing one of those 3 buttons that we will get infos on here. So when we press on the archer, you can see there's agility inside, we have 0 regeneration, 90 hit points, 5 armor, and so on. Same for the warrior class, we can go over, he has more hit points but nothing else, just strength. And maybe the mage has 4 regeneration but nothing else too. So all of that information already works. Now we want to have the buttons to work. So when we are pressing on plus or minus, we want to add or decrement the numbers between, or actually depending on that stuff there. So what we do is we go to the small plus button in here, again drag in the create player class, player object, and take the function set strength. And in here we want to set the strength to 1. With the minus button selected, you can go in and once again drag in create player, change the function and set again the strength, but in this case we type in -1. Same for wisdom. Go over to the plus button, drag in create player and set wisdom, and wisdom again to 1. So we get 1 wisdom point on click. Oops. Okay, same for the minus button, set wisdom -1. And now we have to go and do that for all that game objects or for all that buttons. Now we want to set agility to 1. And we take the minus button in here. Take the create player 1. Agility, in this case, -1. Armor can be increased maybe by 5 or also by the same. That is what you need to decide on your own. Or you will also only take 1 or add 1 armor to your character. And now again the armor int and -1. So we have 1 here and -1 there. That's great. For hit points I will take 10 instead. So I can go over and take create player, set hit points to 10, and minus will be the same. Create player, create, set hit points to -10. Same for region, but not that big amount. You could always go in and use for regeneration a float value if you like to, or any other value. You know or should know how to do that. And here set region to 1, and on the minus button we where is it? There is set region to -1. Don't forget to save the scene, and now let's test everything out at first. So I just call this one demo and press play. So now when I just hit one of those buttons, I will get in our console that I don't have or haven't chosen any class, so I can't actually pass in any points into them. I can choose the mage, for example, or the warrior, or any class. And now what I can do is I can add in points. As you can see, I get 10 hit points by clicking on the plus, and I spend all my points, but I can also decrease that amount once again to its original, but I get also my points back. And that's pretty cool. And since we are currently warrior, we might need a lot of strength and maybe some hit points. And then when we are done with our points spended, then we can say the save button and go into another scene and have all the information stored. And that's what we are going to do now. What we need is we need 2 more scripts. The first one is going to be our save script. So I just call this one, I don't know, save info. This is a pretty easy one, once again. And is just, again, you need to type a lot of stuff inside, but to get it done, you have to do that. And the same for the load later on. So this save info script does not need anything, does not inherit mono behavior. We don't need that in any point or at any point. It's just that class sitting over here, and when we are calling that class, it will automatically work. So what we do is we say public static void. So we want to access this from any point in our scene. So save all info is going to be our function we are calling, and since it's static, we have access to it from any point. We just need to call the class and then the function in the class. And what we can do is to save all the important data is we say player prefs dot, for example, set string, and then in brackets we can set a key. The first one is a key, and this is going to be maybe the player name. You can type this one big or small letters, it doesn't matter, it's just to see it one better. And now we can pass in the correct data, and the correct data is in our game info game object, and this is going to be our player name. So we want to pass in the player name info into a player name key as a string into the player prefs. So later on, when we are going to load that information, we just need that key, and we can actually set this one back to the game info player name and can go forward to our point. So now we have to do that for all informations we want or we need. Some informations are not actually possible to to store in the player prefs, but you can always go in and set or save something into a string and later on bring that one back. But that's a little progress we need to do. So, for example, our base class is not able to get saved. We need to, since we would want to know later on what is the class we just have chosen, we need to save that as a string. So what we want to do is we need a set to int, and what we also want is our player level. Since our player has a level, in this case we are starting at a level 1, so we say we want to take the game info's player level and store this one in the player level key. So what we now do is we say player prefs dot setInt, and now we set all our stats we currently have on our character, and this is going to be strings, and we take strings from gameinfo.strings. Player prefs dot setInt, and now we take our wisdom, and where we take it is of course from gameinfo.wisdom. And we have to do that a bit more again, so maybe I just go over and copy that another amount of times. So this is going to be agility, and we take this info from agility. This is going to be armor, so we take the armor info. This is going to be hit points, and in here we have hit points, and the very last is going to be the regen or regeneration. I just call it regen. Regeneration. Save that, and that's pretty much it. So what we can do now is, when we are creating our player, when we are pressing on that particular button, we set all the data, we send the data to the game info, and after that we want to save that. So what we do is we call the save info script, save info dot, and in here we only have that possibility function, which is static once again, and we just call it. And that should save all the data into the player prefs, as we already set it one up. And later on we have the possibility to reuse all that data when we are loading info. Okay, and that's pretty much everything for this. And what we now do is we go into our Unity once again and create another C# script, and we call this one load info. Okay, so load info does not need anything. So let's set up load info. Load info is basically the same, but reversed as the save info. So what we do is, at first we create a public static class, function, and we call this one load. It's of type void, of course. Load all info. And what we do is, when we are loading info, we just pass in all the infos into the game info. So gameinfo.strengths, for example, or player name, let's restart at the very top, is going to be equal to player prefs. In this case we are not setting an int, we are getting an int or a name or whatever. So what we say is we get string, since this is the key is we don't set the string, we go over and get the string and set this one into the player name, and since it's of type string too, which you can see when you mouse over it, you just need to take the key name and pass this one into here. And that's it. And now we need to do the same for all the other stats once again, but reversed, as we already have done in here. The next one is going to be gameinfo.playerLevel is going to be equal to, and then we'll read the data again from the player prefs. So player prefs dot getInt is going to be in brackets once again. Oops. And I go over and copy the token, copy, and paste this one in here, the player level. I can also just go over to save info and take all of that. So we have the tokens already. I will later on go over and delete them anyways. So what we do is we say game info dot strengths is going to be equal to this one in here. So I could maybe take this one, but I need to say getInt and set this one to this. So I go and copy and paste this once again. So, and here we have agility or wisdom. It doesn't matter in which, however you set this one up. We have armor, we have hit points, and we have regeneration. And here we just go over and copy that tokens or that keys. Copy and paste them in here. It's going to be faster than typing everything out once again. Oh no, that was wrong. Copy, paste, and we want region 2. And that's it. So now I can delete all that lines in here once again. And now I have basically saved all info and I am able to load all that info from any point in the scene or in the game basically. Don't forget to save your demo scene also. Okay, so now when we are going to start the level, for example, or a new level, or we just want to save all our data, the only thing we need to do is we need to call from that specific button, we call the function in the create player. So what we do is we take that button and add a new on-click event, and we select create player, the create player script. And in here we choose create new player. When we are going and pressing that button, our new player will have that stats we just have in here. We'll have the player name, like whatever we have just set this one. I have shown in another tutorial how to create that with an input field. It's going to be the same. We have the player level, the player name, the level class, and so on and so forth, and we pass that all into the game info game object, and then we call the save info and store everything which is in the game info itself. And after that, what we could do is we could load the next level or any level we want. And since the game info game object will go over into the next scene, we will have all that info in there. But we can also go in, the easiest one in Unity 5.3 and over is using the scene manager. Since application.load_level is going to be obsolete, we say Unity engine.scene manager or scene management, that's it. And now we have access to all that new scene stuff, so we can say scene manager dot, and now we have load scene, and now we can load any scene we want. And I just go over and create a new empty scene with nothing inside except maybe the game info game object. I'm gonna save my current scene, create new scene, and this is going to be my, I don't know, save scene as test scene. Okay, don't forget to add that scene to the build. So the test scene is going to be in the build, and go over and open the other scene once again. And make sure that this scene is also in the build over here. So we have demo and test inside, so I can type in the create. You can also go over and do that however you want. Take an integer, take the scene name or whatever. So when we're loading the scene, we want to make sure that we have all the saved in or all the info actually in the game object. And I believe we have so. So what we can do is we can actually go over and debug that at this specific point. We can do that at whatever we want, but at first what we're going to make sure is that we don't destroy this game object when we are loading the test scene. So on pressing that button, let's first make sure that we create any character like warrior and spend all our points, for example, into the strengths. And now when we're pressing save, we are in the next scene, and as you can see, the game info game object made it into the new scene. So the other thing is, as I wanted to show you how to load all that data, since we already have saved them, we should be able to read them or load that data. And we do the same stuff as we have done before. We are going to create a small button for this one. If we have some, we take some space over here maybe. In that extra button, UI button, I don't know. And this is going to be our load button, for example. What we can do is we can just take anything, like for example the create player once again. Then when we need a new function for this, of course, but a rather small one. And what we are going to do in this function is we actually just call the load level. So what we do is we say public load stuff, I don't know, and we don't return anything, so it's of type void, of course. And in here we just say load info dot load all info. And what we actually do is we read everything from the player prefs and pass that in the game info. But since the game info game object is actually a persistent game object at that specific point, we have the possibility to take all the infos directly from that and drag that or pass that info into our game. So I take that load stuff function, and then we're loading. When we are loading, we're passing all that data into our game info once again, and then we load whatever the level is. And in my case, again, it's just going to be the same as we have had before. It's going to be scene manager dot load scene, and we can again pass in the test scene. I believe it was with a big T. Don't forget to end the line, don't forget to save. So we already have a saved character, and that's what I wanted to show you. And since we have all the saved character already, we should be able to pass in all the info into our new script. But as you have seen, we don't debug that. So what I want to make sure is that I show you at least 2 lines of debug. So debug.log, and what we want to do is we want to read the data from game info, and this is going to be game info dot, I don't know, strength, for example, and that's what I want to debug. What I also want to say is debug.log info loaded. So what we can now see is in the console, when we are loading a level, we will go through all of that and we don't have any problems. So let's go over, and I disable maximize on play right now. So I start the game, press on our load button. As you can see, the strength of my currently saved character is 40, and it goes through and says the info is loaded. So what you now have is a fully functional layer saving and loading system with player prefs. Not the best possibility, but actually can be accessed from any point in your game. So you just need to call the save or the load info, no matter where you are, at what point you are, and so on and so forth. And that's everything I wanted to cover for now. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumb this video up if you like it, and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.